So here we go. So we're recording. So if you want to start the
All right.
show,
Sounds like a plan. Let's jump in. Here
okay.
we go. How you doing, everybody? This is Dennis Michelson. Welcome to the science of fantasy football. Why the science of fantasy football? Well, you get a meteorologist and a biologist together. They're just going to use the scientific method, which means we're going to use statistics in a smarter way. How can I say that? Well, we're going to let the statistics answer questions rather than the statistics being cherry picked to support an opinion we already have. And join him as he does each and every episode. He is the fantasy professor. He is a real professor emeritus. It's Dr. John Bush. And John, it is getting to the point of the season where these injuries are really starting to be an annoyance.
It is very squirrely. We don't like annoying squirrel type injuries. Half my team is on bye or injured here. It's crazy. The injury bug has attacked. I'm worried this week about Kamara injured in practice. He's been limited.
Yes.
And now I'm having to go through my lineups and play what if. If Kamara doesn't play, who do I got to cover the base? And it's crazy who that is. It seems like Vidal is one that I'm looking at. I do have some Kendra Miller, but I'm not 100% happy with either of those. I would like something more stable and I'm confident about. I'm not really confident about either one, and it's just that time of year. Week 6, it seems like week 12. It's just I don't know. It's the grind. Here we are rolling on. I'm glad I'm in a points only leagues. That's of my 30, 40 here because I think under extreme situations, a lot of injuries, you having it, you can make up that versus, the head to head, it can be just weird. I mean, you could have a great team and have selective injuries and be 0-5. And it's just because your main studs have been in and out, and that can kill you.
Yeah, and I have one matchup league where I am right now going into this week. I'm sitting at 1-4. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm second in points scored. 1-4. And I've scored the second most fantasy points. Of course, I've given up the most. So I've got my defense running the stairs today to try to get in better shape so
Yeah.
they don't give up so many doggone points to the opposition. But you're right. In those matchup leagues versus the points leagues, I think there's just two different strategies when you're playing. And it's going to be interesting to see now heading in. Only two teams on bye this week, only the Texans and Vikings. So a little better than last week where we had four teams out. But when you add up the injuries, boy, oh boy, Lamar is out. Purdy's out at quarterback. Kyler Murray might not start. You got Flacco coming in, Browning going out. On the running back side, Bucky and Chuba out for the second straight week. Oh, does that hurt one of our dynasty teams over there at FPPC? Because those are our regular starters. You mentioned Kamara questionable. I think Kendra Miller is a good plug and play, same volume, similar volume. I don't think he's going to drop off much in volume. The big worry I have is what if Kamara's active, but he only plays
Yeah.
half a game?
Then
That's the
I'm
big
suckered
concern. I'm
into
I'm
play.
trying
Well,
to get
what do
him
you
out of as
do? I
many
mean,
lineups.
that's happened before, you know,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's
And
what do
it
you do?
depends on the it depends on the team. So I've got a couple of leagues where I had another option. I had Chase Brown, who was sitting on my bench or
Right,
was going to sit on the bench. Now
right,
he is subbed in for Kamara because I think he's more reliable even at his lower scoring output
right.
with the Bengals being so average this year. But in a lot of circumstances, I'm waiting because I'm like, I'll take 50 or 60% of Kamara over 100% of Vidal because I just don't know what that's. I know there's going to be a split between Haskins and Vidal. I think Vidal is going to get more of the opportunities, but not by much. And that's the big concern is you go from having a guy like Kamara who's getting the volume, all of a sudden you're dropping way off with whoever you're sticking in there as a substitute. And that can be tough. Wide receiver, missing CeeDee Lamb again. Missing, I think, the entire San Francisco 49ers, or at least they're all questionable. My goodness, that has been a disaster this year if you own any Pearsall or Jennings trying to figure out if they're even going to get on the field.
And
I
Kittle,
did get a little lucky. Yes, Kittle's out as well. I did get a little lucky last week
okay.
and started Kendrick Bourne in a few leagues. Um, because when you only have one healthy wide receiver that has ever done anything in
Yeah.
fantasy football, it's kind of easy to lean in to that volume. But Professor, we're joined here on the show by a friend of ours from TSA. Mason is watching in and joining us today. So Mason, feel free to jump in and add your 2 cents anytime you
He had
wish.
he chatted an opinion between Miller and Kamara. I don't know if he can hear us. He had a house full of kids and pets to go say grace over, but he chatted me or us that Kinder averages 4.3 a carry. Kamara has 3.9. They have
Ooh.
one touchdown, 21 targets for Kamara, four targets. Can you pivot to him? So I guess there's the debate versus Vidal or Haskins. Yeah, well, if Kamara's not there, is it Neal? I mean, who's going to get? Or they got somebody else? If Kamara, if
Well,
Miller is the runner, who's the pass catcher? If Kamara's out, is maybe another way to think
no,
about that question.
I think Miller gets the heavy volume. The only question that I have is what are they going to end up doing for from week to week with Taysom Hill? He becomes the irritant
The
if you
irritant, yeah,
the irritant if you're playing a New Orleans running back.
right,
Do you lose a goal line opportunity? Do
yeah,
you lose a few touches a week to Taysom Hill, or does
yeah.
the Hill hybrid thing
And
wear
he's out
itself
there
out?
in some leagues. I have toyed putting him in the, pick him up for $1. He is a tight end in FFPC, not quarterback. So, uh, you know, it's pros and cons on grabbing him. If he got a lot of activity, I don't know if they're going to ramp him up or not. I have a feeling if he ramps up this week, he'll be on everybody's pickup list. If he runs in a
Yes.
touchdown and gets a few passes or some red
Oh yeah.
zone, I think he will be discussion point. So if you're thin on tight end or you think you might need somebody, he could be $1 play. It depends on who you got to drop. I mean, at this point, with all these injuries, it's hard to find somebody. I mean, in normal situation with no injuries, it'd probably be easier to find somebody to drop. But now, it's like you're grasping at straws. Like I'm hoping this person can get me 5 points, or I just don't want a zero for this line.
Yeah, and one guy that's become expendable, if you did have him on your league, is Miles Sanders. He's going to be gone for the season now uh, with his injury, which makes it more obvious that Jadon Blue is the backup to Javonte Williams. It's not going to be a valuable player to be rostering unless something happens to Javonte Williams, but that's a player
And
with a
who's
history.
after Blue?
That would be a good question because right now there really isn't anybody. So it'll be whoever they bring in from the practice squad. So we'll have a little bit of a clue on that after this week. But right now,
Yeah.
uh, there's the only guy that was the only other running back that was on the roster was Phil Maffa, but he was on IR as well. So not sure what is going to exist there with the Cowboys. With Miles Sanders going out, we will see, though, because they will be moving somebody to the active roster, but way below Jadon Blue in the pecking order
Yeah.
going forward. So, Professor, the question I have for you,
Okay.
because this is one that I've been having a tough time with.
Okay.
So I do have a lot of Chase Brown on teams this year,
Well,
both in dynasty and redraft. I've got some Jamar Chase, some Higgins.
well,
Is Flacco better for their opportunities than Browning? I don't have a clue.
so Flacco. Okay. So that is Cleveland. How many weeks did he play?
He had 3 weeks,
Three,
first 3 weeks.
first 3 weeks. So I'm looking at my metrics. Okay. Uh, first week they had three uh running backs. Dylan, Sampson, Ford, and Sanders. Judkins was out. Week two, they had Ford, Sampson, and Judkins was just gearing up. Uh, in week three, it was Ford, Judkins, and Sampson was going down to nothing. So he was getting cut. So as far as PPR points per touch, Ford, both weeks, Ford had beat Judkins, and but Judkins has got like the average over 5 weeks has been 20 touches, so he didn't even have 1 week, but the average is 20. Ford has six, so it looks like there's a dominant with a Flacco. Judkins has become the dominant one, so there's no evidence that. Well, I guess if you look where the first 3 weeks there was a lot of splits, but I don't think Flacco determined that. I guess you're asking the
Yeah.
questions. Does Flacco play determine what the team does with the running backs? If we said it's 100% on the quarterback, that it would be a split. And so if we look at uh, Chase Brown, his data, and I am looking at that. It's 16. So in other words, it's P Ryan, Taja Brooks 1 week. P Ryan's is the in fact. I need to get rid of Taja Brooks. He's only been. I think he is the Chase Brown replacement, but P Ryan has been the
Yes.
play. So it looked to me if Brown goes down, it would be Brooks and P Ryan. So maybe I should keep Brooks. I don't know. It's just been hard to carry Brooks. The reason I like Ray Davis over Brooks is because I think the capacity for getting points for Chase Brown versus
Yes.
is way different. So I think Ray Davis is worth more than Taja Brooks. But so Dennis, it looks to me like it's a split as far as activity, but Brown gets the majority of the activity as far as points per touches. It, it there's nothing there to suggest that Brown will go down. I guess I'm circling all the way back. That's what I think. I don't think anything that I saw in the data, and I probably should have shared it with the people, Dennis. I'm sitting there looking at my data metrics. Uh, let me, and we had done this in the pre show. This is Cincinnati. This is average touches per game over the 5 weeks, and P. Ryan didn't play week 2. In fact, Brown was the dog week 2, and I don't know if he took advantage of that. 0, so half a point per touch. That's not very. He's come on, Dennis, the last 2 weeks. If this makes you feel better for him, he's almost doubled his activity or time and a half, almost point 0.8 last 2 weeks. So you could hang your hat on an increase weeks 4 and 5. So was that when Browning stepped in week 4, or is it week 3?
Yeah, Browning actually took over full time week 3. He had to
But
replace
by
Burrow
week
early
4,
in week 2.
by week 4, he had gone up. So I don't think Brown's going to go down. I think he's going to stay at this level or maybe better. Because at the same time, Browning did really good week 5, by the way. People want to forget that. But look at
Oh yeah, well, he
Higgins
was
and
junk time
Chase.
all the way. Yeah.
So it's funny why they walked away from him. You think that's a coach's trick?
Well, it was junk time yardage that
But
got
still,
him.
for
They were
fantasy,
off to a bad start. For fantasy, I didn't mind Browning in there for fantasy because the garbage time points were
yeah,
doing quite good by me. But the interesting thing is, if I look at Flacco,
yeah,
8 targets week 1 for Flacco, 8 targets to, or I'm sorry, 8 receptions to running back, 6 in week 2, 1 in week 3, and then 4 in week 4. Those are the 4 games that Flacco started. So I guess I should be encouraged because Chase Brown can catch passes out of the backfield. So maybe Flacco will be checked down city to Chase Brown, but I don't know what he's going to mean to Chase and Higgins, to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins' value. They weren't doing great with Browning. They,
right.
except for last week, that was the only week that they did really well with Browning. I just don't know how to read this, and I just think at the worst, or I think best case Flacco's just a push. Maybe he keeps them in the game better than Browning, but hell, he had 6 interceptions to Browning's 8 anyway. So it's not like he is taking good care of the ball. I think that's a panic move by the Bengals, that they're just kind of worried without Burrow that they've become very, very ordinary.
Hmm. I'm looking at the data. I did notice for Cleveland, Jamari Thrash. Look at that, 3.2. So he's getting a little activity. He looks like. I mean, I'm just saying, if a deep play here, I don't know much about this one. You know,
Yeah, he's definitely down there in the pecking order. But what I love about this is with Tillman out, he's only maybe one more injury away from being a guy that
I
will
mean,
get
look
more
at
of an
Bond.
opportunity.
Bond picked it up last two
Yeah,
weeks. So
yeah. Bond
that's
was a guy that
yeah, we all stashed.
yep. And
Yeah,
but I said I don't think he's playable yet. Um, you know, he's
yeah.
the grab and stash kind of guy, and he might come on. But boy, it's hard to quarterback changes and what they do for your fantasy
And
football
that's a
value of
big
your wide
thing.
receivers is
we
It's
need
a
that
hard read.
data. We do. In fact, you aren't to use your MVP metric to ask that question. Track in the past. That's there's your poster right there. You know.
Yeah, and Mason in the chat, adding some good information about Flacco.
Oh,
Um, my concern, he said that he's better at releasing the ball live, or 5 yards and under with solid accuracy, and that's why all of those targets were going to the running backs. And with Cincy's offensive line being so lousy, I'm kind of wondering if you get even more check down cities to Chase Brown here going forward. It's going to be interesting, but
I do
it's
though. Yeah.
I don't have a lot of I'm feeling better about my Chase Brown in my starting lineup because he hasn't been awful.
Yeah.
He hasn't been great. He
Yeah.
hasn't been where you want him, but he's at least getting me double digits in 3 out of 5 games,
Dennis, the last 2 weeks he's improved.
and he's improving on his efficiency.
Yeah.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
You know, and Chase and Higgins, you only have 2 good games and 3 bad out of
Yeah.
both guys.
Right.
And my big fear with Flacco is his lack of movement. Will he just annihilated
I
behind
mean,
that Cincinnati line?
Mason had he's stuck to the field. Yeah, like he's one of these glue mouse traps. He just sits there. He's
Yeah.
trapped, and I like that. So I guess fast off the for Flacco. I mean, did you hear Chase actually made a comment that Flacco moves quicker or gets it going quicker? Did you? I heard him say that in something this week on NFL Network or something. So I was trying to figure out what that meant.
Yeah,
Chase said it was
versus Browning.
okay.
Browning was
Yeah,
Yeah, Browning was very Browning was only good if the first read was open. Like if the first read was open, he could make the play. If the first read wasn't open, he held on to the ball way
yeah,
too long behind that
right.
offensive line and got annihilated
Yeah,
for it. Now, when they were playing soft defense in garbage time last week against the Bengals, when they were way behind, that's where we saw the goodness for both Chase and some moderate goodness for Higgins. But boy, that's not the kind of it's going to be a long season if that's the only production you're getting out of Chase and Higgins are
yeah.
in garbage time. That the Bengals fans are going to be very, very
Cranky.
upset. But
Yeah,
but
they're
hopefully
cranky.
more checkdowns to Chase Brown. That would be good.
I don't
I
know
would
if we
like
answered
that.
your question. Your question
No, but
was, you're trying to speculate what Flacco does. And I think
it's
if they
yeah,
stick with Flacco, Dennis, I think we'll see an early reaction that will morph into something else. And I
yeah.
can't predict what journey that's going to be to that something else. I don't expect what we see tomorrow to be if Flacco's still running the show in 6 weeks. I think it's going to morph into something. I don't know if that's better or worse, but it's not going to be what we see Sunday. I think it will be changed. I don't know what that change is yet, but so
And against
yeah, if I'm
yeah,
a super flex player and I've got Flacco as a desperation, I wouldn't just automatically react to this game. I might keep him a little bit. If he can make Chase and Higgins at least viable for a little bit, even spiky, just give me a game every other week would be better than what's been going on before. So just don't go too crazy. So I'm not going to believe whatever Flacco does. I'm not going to buy that's how it's going to be. I guess is my warning. I just don't
on
know where it's going.
yeah,
I don't know.
on the road against a tough defense in a very noisy place to play is not
And no
great
weather to
for
worry
your
about.
first week.
No weather to
No
worry.
weather to worry about. That's the good news. We do have two weather events
Oh,
to
I don't want
keep
to
an
hear
eye
that.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
for Sunday. Yeah, there's a major storm that's going to be just off the coast of the mid-Atlantic tomorrow,
Yeah.
that is whipping up pretty fast. I'm pretty pessimistic for the weather at Baltimore tomorrow. I think it's going to be a very, very windy day. Um, Rain wise, it's the timing of the rain that is the only concern. There's going to be heavy rain during the day on Sunday. Does it come in? Does the worst hit after the game, or before the game?
Hmm.
That's a tough with these kinds of systems. They're sort of tropical in nature, if you will. The rain comes in bands off the ocean, so it's
Right.
not an easy forecast on timing, even one day out. But right
Yeah.
now, worried about the kicking and the passing games because, and that's Baltimore and the Rams. So we're talking, Rams
And the
for a
Rams
team that
really need that high flying
they
circus with.
they they do. So
Yeah.
how that's going to slow that game down is a big question mark. But that'll be a tough read
Hmm.
for this weekend. I do think though that Vegas has been ahead of schedule on this one because that over under for those two teams is
Hmm.
actually pretty low. It's 44 and a half.
Yeah.
I would have expected closer to 48, 49 with those two teams. So I think they were already factoring the weather into that. The other weather impact is
Hmm.
just wind, and that's for the Kansas City game on Monday night or Sunday night. Might be a little bit more breezy. So that, of course, we know is going to affect golf's play a
Right.
little more than it will Mahomes, but it'll be interesting to see. I think that game we'll be talking about on the matchup lab
Yeah.
today on our over on the sports affiliation. So check that podcast out after you're done
And
with the
Dennis,
science of
before we
fantasy
hit
football.
our two or three games for this and then shut this down and move on to the next podcast, I did want to mention your article, Next Man Up Index after week 5. I had challenged you to digitize, let's say, put a metric to some of your ideas. And I think this article lays it out. I don't know how many weeks you're going to come back and follow up with this, but I urge people to go to scienceandfantasyfootball.com. Check this out. Dennis got some other, your looking back article, your next man, this next man up, and leader of the pack are all worth people's time. And I'll have my metrics up on the touches per game, per second concept there. I'll have more data than you'll have time to get ready for, unless unless your parents won't let you out of the basement this weekend, then you can have plenty of data to pass your time in the parents' basement. Okay, so Dennis, uh, draft the best, prepare for the worst. Why don't you give us a rundown so people can at least skim through this and pick up some good tidbits that you're laying down.
Yeah, so the basic concept of this follows very similar to the opportunity index and how we find the rookies. It's that we look at what the MVP index is, and we know if it's under 80, first of all, that guy's job is at jeopardy just without injury. So that's the first group of guys that you got to look at is who could win over a job that is right now not being handled too well. And, right now, you've got Michael Carter with Arizona. Will he be able to hold on to the job? But you've got Chuba Hubbard, who's also been hurt here. So, he's vulnerable. DeAndre Swift is not really lived up to expectations. So will we see some Moninjay moving forward? And Nick Chubb has been average at best with Houston. They're on a bye. Of course, Pacheco and Hunt, neither one has gotten the job done in Kansas City. And then Ramondre Stevenson has been kind of average. And Tony Pollard, not very good. Although how much of Tony Pollard not being good is more directed at the Titans offense is the big question there. So those are the first 7 guys that I look at those positions and I say, well, maybe they'll dabble in going a different direction. And then you get into the lists that are only injury related, and not every running back spot is worth the same, because if you've got a running back on a very good team and I've got a clear backup like DJ Giddens in Indianapolis is the clear backup now with injuries that have occurred there to their depth at the running back room. So he would take over. If Jonathan Taylor got hurt, Giddens is the man. If Cook gets hurt, Davis is the man. Now, Davis won't see quite the volume necessarily that James Cook will. There'll still be a split. There'll be still Ty Johnson coming in on passing downs, that sort of thing. But it's going to be Ray Davis. And then with Tampa, we've already seen it. It's Rachaad White. If Bucky goes down, Rachaad White is a plug and play right there. And then you get down to other starting positions, and they're not worth as much because that offense hasn't been producing. So that's how the next man up index comes into play. But then there are some running back situations where who the backup is going to be is a mystery. So San Francisco, let's say if something happened to Christian McCaffrey, will Brian Robinson get the same amount of volume? I don't think so. So
you got a 50%
Robinson,
confidence.
I've got it like 50-50. Yeah, because there's also Jordan James, the rookie, and there's Garendo that might get some of that volume.
Right.
So who knows what's going to happen? And these percentages
this
will vary.
Is valuable though, Dennis.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
You've got it at the highest 200. Your MVP says 200. So it's worth, even if it's a coin flip, it's worth your time to dabble there. If there's an injury, there's going to be people will go nuts if something happens to CMC. You won't be able to get Brian Robinson for $1 like you can this week. The kind of thing.
No, but you might be able to get Jordan. You might be able to.
Yeah.
You might be able to find Jordan James still
for $1
on free agency. And
it depends on how deep
you want to protect yourself.
Yeah. Deep,
correct. Deep. But I would rather be going with the guys like Giddens, Davis, that I know are going to take over. And so now I'll add another one with the
sure bets. Right. You've got 160, 80%. So, you could even multiply that, Dennis, and have kind of an overall, I don't know what we'd call that metric, but 80% of 160 versus 50% of 200.
That's actually how but the way I calculated this was pretty simple. So I know from the past that a replacement value running back is worth somewhere between 60 and 80%. That's what he typically produces. And some are much lower. Some can be as low as 40, and some are right there to take over, and they're equal to the guy that left. But over the course of the last 5 years, using my MVP index, it's been a range of 60 to 80 is where they most often fall. So I took 70%, took the middle
kind of an average
ground. Yep, took that, multiplied it by the 200. So in this case, nobody's going to have a 200 for the rest of the season. Like
No.
even CMC will fall back to a 140 or 160, but I had to be consistent in how I applied the numbers. But the key is you look at the percentage there and it drops, 50% of 70% is what it ends up being. That's still a larger value than some of the other positions that are open. But Tajay Blue, just in since I wrote this, went
Jadon Blue
or
or
Jadon Blue,
Tajay
sorry.
Brooks
Jadon Blue has gone way up because his percentage with Miles Sanders there
went down.
was
Yeah,
was
yeah.
considerable, but it is now 90%. So he'll go up to number 3 or 4 on the list
So I would
with
say
the departure.
90%. So
Yeah, so
I'll change
he'll
that.
go up to 90%. And so the value of that position has
Hmm.
also gone up. So using my simple math, and again,
Hmm.
do I expect that value to be at 120 the rest of, or 160 the rest of the season? No. But you got to start somewhere. And right now, that
90,
next man up value would be 101. So it goes
101.
up to 101.
Okay.
So that would put him, right towards the top of the list now.
So you
So
can, and Dennis, you've got kind of the metrics here for your kind of opinion that people can, if they don't want to figure out this math, because math's too hard for them or a statistic based game, right? So it's all luck anyway. They can just, you've already chopped some of the wood for them so they don't have to
yeah,
figure it out. So you've got them listed here, which is
yeah,
interesting. I would have thought Davis would have been higher than Giddens, but let's just say both to me are the top tier kind of concept.
yeah.
And
They were 89 and 88 points apiece, so they were
yeah,
almost identical. And Jadon Blue would go up to 101, so
I'm
he goes
trying to
up to
see
number
of
one
these, where
now
can I
in the
get for a
replacement list.
dollar? I have gotten, I mean,
Emmanuel,
Wilson cheap, Brooks is cheap.
yes,
Ollie Gordon
yeah,
still might be out there. I think Blue's gone. Everybody
Blue's
above
gone.
gone, and Harvey's gone.
Emmanuel Wilson is the only one that is possibly available
Yeah,
right
and
now,
I have been
and
stockpiling
and I've
him for the last three
yeah,
weeks, Dennis. Even in their bye week,
yes,
if I had a spot for a dollar, so everybody's looking elsewhere, I'm, gathering the acorns and storing them kind of concept. So, folks, this is your opportunity this weekend to go through this, look. If you got a deep bench and you're saying, well, I only got 5 on my bench. Okay, first thing, why are you playing in those leagues? Do you just want to hurt yourself? Because I think my opinion, I haven't metrically, statistically figured this out. The shallower your bench, the more likely luck can rule. And I just don't want to be beat by people by luck. I like deep benches, and I think you have more skills with a deeper bench. Maybe that's my opinion. That's why I play at FFPC. 10 on the bench. I feel like somebody that looks at it, 24/7, that I have an advantage over a big swat of games. So that's why I pay about 40 leagues a year. So I let my advantage roll across enough leagues that I make money, which is the bottom line for me. I don't care about silly trophies or jumping up and down into Waffle House, throwing waffles at everybody or whatever my punishment is. I don't care about that. Come make me do that. I would never be in a league where, yeah, I've got to put hot wax on my face and take all my beard off. No, I don't think you do. Okay. Uh, our money, I mean, I don't know what bros you hang with, but tormenting my friends by torture is not what I call friends. I know people, it goes back to the hazing Dennis, I'm not a fan of hazing, but then again, I never joined
See,
any of those groups, so I was always what we called a GD independent, right? Or GD, goddamned independent. So I didn't join any of those fraternities, and they could all, whatever. So I was,
so
back in the day,
so
that
we had a
was,
more
yeah. Go ahead, Dennis. I'm getting preachy
we
here.
had a more we had a more practical solution to
Yeah.
penalties
Yeah,
in
not
my
stick
old
your
home
hand in
league.
hot wax and
Okay.
yeah, blister it. Yeah,
No, home 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 league. If you finished last
yeah.
the year before,
Uh,
you were bringing an extra 48 hot wings to
ooh,
the draft
I do like hot
the
wings. Yeah,
next time up.
yeah,
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
you had to bring in 4 dozen. We were
See,
hungry people.
bet you
So
were. Now, Dennis, I saw a recipe for corn dogged boudin sticks. So you take your
ooh.
boudin, you put it in the corn dog, and fry it up. So that's what I'd be bringing. None of these old hot wings. I'm talking some real good food here. Get you some Cajun spice
There you
there,
go.
good boudin. Of course, I have to go to South Louisiana to get it because in Arkansas, Dennis, you don't know what kind of meat's in that boudin sauce. It could be raccoon meat, possum meat. So we don't play that up here with the hillbillies. Hillbillies like, here's the thing: you go into one of these country stores and they got something there, some type of pickled meat, and you're thinking, oh, that looks good, Dennis. That could be a possum shank or something. You don't want any of that stuff. So I'd rather go down to Louisiana. It's like, okay, I'm eating gator, nutria, or some real food there because gator's pretty tasty. Never had the nutria, which is just a
I
giant.
like Gator.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think I want, nutria, which is some South American rat that escaped. They brought them in for fur and whatever, and it escaped in some hurricane down there in the 30s. And these things are everywhere now, these nutrias. So you don't want none of that meat, care how much you mix it with pork. That's what they do. They'll take some of that pork and mix it with the other mystery meat and you think it's good. Anyway, we're not going to do that. Folks, check out this article. Look at this. Figure it out. Now is the time this weekend. I say this all the time. This is your time to make a dollar holler play on some of these people. And while everybody's asleep, or watching, no offense, college. I don't want to crab Mason here, but some of us trying to figure out Sunday. My head would explode if I tried to follow college. And this is your opportunity to get somebody like a Wilson cheap on your deep benches. And if you're playing shallow benches, give it up. Come over to the good side and play deep benches, Dennis. And I'm all
But here,
uh,
even in a league
okay.
that only has 6 bench spots or
Yeah,
even 5 bench spots,
that's what I say.
okay,
Yeah.
you leave the wide receiver, like have one backup wide receiver, have no backup at quarterback and tight end because
Wow,
there'll
that's
be
that's
somebody
hanging out
available
there though,
that you
Dennis.
can put in.
That's hanging
Yes,
out
it
there,
is.
man.
But you should still have 80% of your bench,
Yeah.
80% of your bench, 70 to 80%, because leagues vary. And sometimes the value isn't at running back. But in a general situation, I want heavy running back. So if I've got 5 bench spots in one of
Uh,
those, I'm playing in a that
yep.
where I have 5 bench spots, I will have 4 of them as running backs.
Well,
And that allows me to have the backups already on the roster. I will be updating these values
yeah.
every
Well, I
week, and
think
I'll
you have an
include,
opportunity in Green
yeah.
Bay and San Francisco
Oh,
to,
yeah. Yes.
for a dollar because Frisco is so valuable. If you can just get 60%, even 50%, Dennis, of CMC's value, if you've got the main player
Yes.
for a dollar,
Yes.
people, you think they bid for Vidal Haskins. Can you imagine what will go on? Folks, I'm warning you now. Anything's possible. This could be this week. CMC, he's had years where he's had injury. Don't be surprised. Don't be, well, should have listened to them science folks. I guess they know something. Yeah, we know for a
and
dollar of our
yeah,
fab is worth a shot if you've got a spot for him.
and in those small bench leagues,
Yeah,
5 or 6, bench spots leagues,
yeah,
I'm handcuffing 2 of my running backs. I'm just doing it. So if I own Jonathan Taylor, I've got Giddens in reserve because I want to have a viable starting running back. I
yeah.
don't want to have to be at the whim of the waiver wire. So I'm more likely to go heavy running back, but I'm also likely to handcuff
Yeah.
my own stud. I will update this index and I
Okay,
will
good.
include it. I'm going to include it as part of the All 32 article moving forward
Okay,
each and every week. So as the
okay.
numbers adjust, we'll have maybe a little different targeting. Just I'll include that right at the end of All 32 just to
Gotcha,
give you an idea of
gotcha.
what's going on. Well, we're going to be talking the squirrels and the husky games, so we'll be
Over
talking
at
the
the
big games and the bad games over on the Matchup Lab at Sports Affiliation. So let's just pick some
let's end
games
this
here in the
podcast with
middle.
three or two or three games here that are not those, the middle games, right?
Yeah, let's look at some middle games. Let's look at the Rams and Baltimore.
Okay. Rams in Baltimore, weather impacted, Dennis is concerned about.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, remember, Dennis, people can I guess I need to. Okay, just a second. Let me save that. Okay, I'm getting rid, and this I need to view normal. Let's see here. I can't figure this stuff out here. Let's see. Let me stop for a second and play this in a slideshow. That way we'll have it. Normal view. Let's see. Slideshow. Slide master. Slideshow. Okay. We could go. Okay. Mason says, I always handcuff RB1 if I can. Make sure to
Yep.
handcuff somebody else, his rival. There you go. Dennis can definitely talk about that here. So we got a weather issue. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Okay. So, Mason, what I do is I develop something power rankings. So I give this metric, and Dennis and I discussed this Wednesday on the podcast, how we use this. This is just for week 6. So this is forward projections, and backward looking is my efficiency metrics for team. So I like to set landscapes up for in general and then go down. So it's a top to bottom movement of how I like to handicap these games. Okay, so that's like I said. So far in the pick'em, I'm doing pretty good. In the sports affiliation, our pick'em game, I'm not doing too bad. But my metrics, I use my power rankings and my efficiency. That's my secret stuff to generate those. And I look at the highs and lows, especially. My metrics have shown the extremes are really where you find the most information versus the middle. And that's kind of in biology as well. Usually the extremes in an ecosystem are really a lot of intriguing things are happening there. So you can get that information, and Dennis wants to do Baltimore and the Rams, and that's game 4. So let's find game 4, Dennis, and we will talk. Here it is. Vegas thinks it's not even close. 30-15. The line may have shifted. This was early.
Wow.
So a touchdown difference, Dennis, 45. So that's mid for sure. So the Rams, they're they're going to beat them by at least 2 touchdowns. Vegas says. Doesn't mean we say, but Vegas says that. So if you don't believe that, if you think Baltimore can be closer, then you have an opportunity here. My uh, defense index and efficiency are below here. Baltimore is at home. Their opponent is the Rams. Rams are overall above average easy, but they are tough, rough, and tough against running backs here. So Henry once again has to earn his bacon, and there are people, Dennis, talking about benching him this week. I actually heard that. And now with the weather, it seems opposite of what you should do if they can't pass a lot. And Baltimore is behind by 2 touchdowns. They're in a bind if they can't pass a lot. Maybe Henry gets some checkdowns, maybe a little better. I don't know. The wide receivers are easy. So that's an advantage. Tight end, well, Andrews has a above average. So there's nothing in the Rams defense other than the running back that concerns me. The Rams, on the other hand, it's play them all. Play them all, assuming no crazy weather, Dennis. 30-mile-per-hour winds or craziness. It looks like you play them all, and Rams have the most dynamic situation because they can play them all. And Vegas's view of that, I believe, is them analyzing the weak defense of Baltimore, points given up and whatnot. So I think that's overriding the weather, Dennis. I don't think Vegas has taken in the weather. The weather would imply this might be closer, kind of an under kind of situation. We'll see what you say. Efficiency, Baltimore is 91 for the first 5 weeks out of 100. Rams, 37. So they are a little slower at getting points, but boy, when they do it, when they get touches, it's lots of points. Baltimore loves home, 28% better at home than away. And at home, though, Dennis, they're below league averages in passing and rushing. They just have not generated anything. And notice they're declining because Lamar's been hurt. And so this is looking at the last few games compared to the league, the season average. So they're declining because of that. Rams love away games, Dennis. Look at that. Away games
Wow.
plus, yeah, plus 26% better efficiency away. And away, they love to rush and don't love to pass. So this would imply a Kerwin Williams game. The weather may imply that as well. So if I was doing props, I might focus on Williams's points or touchdowns or yards, or I'd look hard at those props just to see if there's not a little treat that you can't, for $1 or $2, Dennis, get your little parlay going here and earn you a little treat here, get you some positive. I'm sure the by itself it's not dramatic, but I love those parlays for cheap. Dennis, gamble pennies to win dollars. Never gamble dollars to win
There
pennies.
you go.
I learned that at the track. That's why I never put $1,000 to show on a horse. I'd rather put a dollar to win on a 100 to 1 if I think they got some type of shot. It's just better to do it that way, and versus spend 1,000 to win on a favorite that the saddle could break. So just remember. So that's how I see this. I do have my player uncertainty rankings that I have hidden. Look at Puka, 129 out of 100. Dennis, he's off scale. He's so crazy. So it is so
That's crazy.
crazy. I love Williams, but high uncertainty. So you got a floor ceiling issue. Stafford's about a QB2 type. The kicker's fine, and I love the Rams D, 77 out of 100. Not bad, not bad at all. Uh, Maybe your parlay is Williams with some of these Puka touchdown. Maybe there's your in-game parlay. Baltimore, nobody's above 60 much,
Oh,
Dennis, but that's lean. And Henry,
ugh.
yeah, Henry, we're talking a RB2, 3 type this week. With the weather, maybe he's more of an RB2. Zach Flowers, or WR2 3. Just there's nothing here that inspires me. I think Andrews is safe for about 3 catches, so I'm hoping there's a touchdown in there because I got to play him in a few leagues. That's my hope for. That is sad that that's where it's come down to for Andrews here this week. Okay, Dennis.
Yeah, yeah. So the weather guy is gonna talk about this storm a little bit more. This is a very strong nor'easter type storm with almost a tropical flavor to it. So wind wise, if the models verify, and I looked at them this morning, if they verify, we're talking wind speeds of 30 mile an hour sustained. Okay, with some stronger gusts. We're talking a very significant wind event. Rain wise, I'm not so sure we're going to see the horrendous heavy rain I was worried about early in the week, but it'll be close by if it misses them. They will get rain. Here's the interesting part, though. Rams have a pretty good, solid, short passing game with a lot of yak after the catch. And I think that that's going to be okay. But I would expect this to hit the under 7 point spread, 7.5 point spread. You got to take the Rams in this one because, Baltimore without Lamar Jackson has been a dumpster fire. And I know how insulting that is to dumpster fires, but
Dennis.
we'll see how it goes this week. But as far as Baltimore goes, I'm looking for excuses to get all my Baltimore players out of the lineup. It's
Henry,
hard
are you
hard
sitting
to do.
Henry this
I'm
week?
I'm
You're thinking about it.
if I've got another choice that if I got another choice that get me 12, I'm doing it. Because here's the problem is I don't think Cooper Rush will be able to throw for any decent length in this wind. If they get behind, we're going to see more of Justice Hill and less of Henry if they have to pass. And if they run at the beginning, let's say the winds are very strong, like I'm expecting, and they run, the Rams are just going to take that away because they know that Cooper Rush is going to beat them. So it could turn ugly if the winds verify, because I see them putting 8 in the box and just forcing Baltimore to throw. So if I've got another running back that is likely to be a 10, 12 point guy,
Yeah.
I would consider benching Henry, but I have zero. I have actually one out of, let's see, 18, 25 redraft teams this year.
Yeah.
I've got one share of Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Well,
Didn't like him at his value, but that's how I see this game. We'll have an update on my Twitter account at DMike Media for the weather tomorrow morning. Let's go
okay.
to another game.
In
This
the
one
middle.
is, let's go San Francisco and Tampa Bay because I think there's a lot of goodness for starters in this
Goodness.
game.
Goodness. Okay. Goodness gracious, we want that. Let's see. Game 12 here. Right here. So Vegas thinks it's fairly close. Tampa Bay's at home, so there's that -3 spread here. 26-20. So this in our pick on for the SA, I think a lot of people are going Tampa Bay, but just be aware that San Francisco, you never know, can get lucky here. And over under, it's close to 48, 47 and a half. So that's interesting. It's a little bit more higher than you might think. Frisco's away, but Tampa Bay is fairly easy. A little bit of static on CMC's chances, but that they're gonna need a lot more than a below average defense to get him, Dennis. So I'm really not. I wouldn't play any of these defenses. I'd be a little cautious about the kickers, but Tongas is my man here. That easy. I need him real bad to come through with a touchdown and about 4 catches. So I'm gonna have to, Dennis. I'm gonna have to call my voodoo folks down Louisiana. We got to make some of this kind of stuff happen here. And but I need him. Tampa Bay is at home, and they're pretty rough against wide receivers. So Ibuka, I don't think Ibuka, but people are rushing to get Shepard and Tez Johnson. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about that. Love Otten. Maybe that's your secret in-game parlay. I love those tight end parlays for some silly reason. And I do like Rashad White having, some activity here. So maybe that's your throughway parlay is get something on White. Certainly CMC to score a touchdown, Tongas to score. Boy, I'm bold here. Tongas to score, and then some activity and Ibuka to score. So maybe this is our three-way touchdown score. Maybe that's our in-game parlay here. They should give you more money in an in-game parlay. They should. They probably don't. Vegas is cheap. Frisco overall the last 5 weeks, 23 out of 100, Dennis. That sucks. Tampa Bay's double that, 62. San Francisco, 6% better away, nothing crazy. But look at their away. They love to run. 31% more rushing attempts away. Passing, it doesn't matter. So it looks like CMC gets as much as he wants to bite here, folks, for Frisco. And I think Vegas likes that, but not enough to give them an advantage. But if Frisco wins, it'll because CMC goes off for about 3 touchdowns and Tampa Bay just can't keep up. So, not sure I see that scenario, but that's what the efficiency in the past has said the first 5 weeks. Tampa doesn't matter home or away, they'll do it. Home, they love to rush, pass about league average, so they want to rush. Looks like they have the Frisco gives them that opportunity here. So there may be more rushing than you think, and if you rush, then that means probably closer game, right? And it'll be faster if they do a lot of running. So that might play more for Frisco having an opportunity to catch up. So I'm not discounting uh, Frisco to win here in an upset.
Yeah, and I do like San Francisco to pull off the upset. Mason in our chat is right. Mac Jones has been incredible when he's been in there. It's almost close enough to thinking we might have a controversy at quarterback when Purdy comes back if Purdy isn't as good as Mac Jones. And if you look at what Mac Jones has had to work with, he hasn't had any of the starting wide receivers or Kittle, and he's still been getting it done. Now, obviously, the offense runs completely through CMC, but when teams know that and they can't shut him down, yeah, Bourne was a freak last week with his career game, but with the way this defensive matchup is, I think he could be a 15-point guy this week. So I like him a lot because I think Pearsall's going to miss. I don't think Jennings will be full speed. Mason says he likes both Tongas and Otten to both have a TD. I got a lot of strange to replace with his injury at tight end. Tongas and Otten are the two guys that I'm going after right now
Yeah.
for this week. I'll worry about next week, but for
Yeah.
this week,
Yeah.
Tongass and Otten are two good choices. I like the over in this game. I think it's going to be in the 50s. I think it might even be in the mid to upper 50s in total points scored. I think it will be it could come down to who has the ball last.
I like
That's
that.
how that's how much the scoring could be. So lots of goodies in this one. But I agree with you. I did try to pick up a little bit of Tez Johnson at wide receiver in Dynasty where he was available, but I'm not playing him this week. Like I'm
No.
not forcing him into the lineup. It's a longer play
Well,
in
if
case
Godwin
God,
is out, yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, if Godwin and Evans struggle, then I think Tez Johnson's got a shot at coming along. He looked pretty good out of that in that offense in limited use, but you don't lean into him, and I'm not going to lean into Sterling Shepard against what is a very good San Francisco defense. But I think they could give up points here. You know, we're talking Baker and Igbuka have been
Hmm.
getting it done, and I think it will be a high-scoring game here with Tampa Bay and San Francisco. Let's look at one more game before we wrap things up. Let's look at another one in the middle. How about New England and the New Orleans Saints with that hot shot quarterback, Mr. Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, hot shot. You're so funny.
Hey, he's
I'm a,
been good this.
yeah,
I was forced to start him in a couple of leagues.
well, yeah, I did. I actually picked up Dart last week and played him, Thursday. And now I can't drop him because I don't want anybody else in the league. So I'm stuck with three quarterbacks and wasn't planning on being. So that was tricky. New England 26, Saints 19. New England is an away favorite. That's always tricky. Spread 3.5, 46 over under. New England away. New Orleans D has been kind of tough, but not really. Running back and wide receiver. Nothing scares me about any of New England players with this Saints defense here. Saints, on the other hand, Kamara, tough. I worry about him, but it's Olave for volume, and Rashid Shaheed might be my second flex. Just I need some of that. Johnson might be a secret tight end play with Hunter Henry. There's you another considered parlay here. And I did stream the New Orleans D because they can get aggressive. And last week we saw that. So I thought that they were cheap. Nobody's really looking at them. So that's it. I feel like it's kind of neutral, but I can see where New England has the more dynamic situation. I guess Ramondre Stevenson is going to get another week, Mr. Fumbles, and that's an amazing situation. The coach would, I'm so used to coaches getting cranky. They're giving him a lot of rope. So, and I know the Henderson folks, they're not happy at all. They're ready to make Ramondre walk the plank and let their guy get full tilt on the touches here. We'll see. New England 60, New Orleans 44, 45. So pretty close in efficiency the last 5 weeks. New England away +8. So that's okay. And away, they love to rush more than pass. And the defense gives them that. So it could be another Ramadre stumbles into the fumbles and recovers in the end zone, his own fumble. There's his touchdown right there. So you put him with Henry for your secret parlay. See, now that's what they are to give you odds on. Stevenson fumbles and recovers in the end zone there. New England is improving the last few weeks compared to the overall average. That's very intriguing. So again, Vegas sees that. New Orleans loves home, 23% better, and they pass more than rush, and that's exactly what's being given. So I think Kamara, if he's healthy, doesn't get any kind of bump in activity this week. So, I mean, if I've got Kamara and I do in too many places, then I probably got to play him anyway, but I'm not happy. But I'm liking my Olave and Shaheed shares here this week.
Yeah, I'm going to pick New England to win this one, but boy, I'm not sure I would want to put real money on this one. I think it's going to be under. I think both teams are going to try to shorten the game to help their defenses a bit. With New England or with New Orleans, it'll probably be a shorter passing game with these DAPs, and I think that is going to be looking really good for your Olave shares. Shaheed could break a play at any
I'm
given
telling you,
time.
he's one play and he can get you
Oh,
10 points. And
and
sometimes in your second flex, that's all you need to keep you in the game.
oh, absolutely. Juwan Johnson's not on the injury list this week, so
I
that's good
like him.
news.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm kind of looking for options to get away from Kamara. I'm looking for options to get away from the New England running backs. I do like Diggs and I do like Hunter Henry.
Yep.
I'm not starting Drake May in this
Well,
game where
that's
I've got some
dangerous, Dennis.
alternatives.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah, I
better
got
have better alternatives than that because he's pretty good.
yeah, he's pretty good, but he's not lighting it up in fantasy
Oh,
right
you're
now.
greedy.
So I'm
Don't
greedy.
be
So
greedy, Dennis.
I'm trying to get a few more points there than what Drake May gives me, but he has
Yeah.
been a very good real NFL football quarterback. And on the weeks that he gets you a little more rushing,
Yep.
he certainly has been a good buy. So head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. Check out my articles. I have
Yep.
3 articles this week. Oh my
Three.
goodness.
And by the
We
way,
got to
Dennis, I am mirroring all your articles up on the TSA website as well. So,
very cool. Very
I'm
cool.
fishing in two ponds here to get people eyes on your secret stuff here. So exciting.
And speaking of which, head over to the Sports Affiliation YouTube channel, catch
Subscribe.
the Matchup Lab coming and subscribe and like it as
Yep.
well. And then head on back here next week for another edition of the Science of Fantasy Football.
Get to work, folks.
All righty.
That was good. I'm going to stop recording so we can put